gone.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now?
Well, we had a special show lined up this week. We're going to have former Detroit Police Chief James Craig on to talk about his future, about the future of the Michigan Republican Party, which is having its state convention this weekend. And we're going to ask him a little bit about his history as a Detroit police officer, a black Detroit police officer at a time when the department was still being integrated and was still struggling with those issues. But something bigger has happened, and I wish to hell that it hadn't. As you know, there was a shooter on the campus at Michigan State last night. 3 people were killed. 5 people are in critical condition as we broadcast this morning, which is Tuesday, the 14th of February. Happy Valentine's Day. And so we shift gears to talk about the news because this is a news program, and we're joined by 2 special guests today. 2 young men who were on campus last night when this happened. They're going to share their experience with us, and we're going to talk a little bit about how the media did in literally a live fire situation and what it was like to live through that. My daughter, one of them was at our house in East Lansing, and she had the lights off and was hiding under a table. My other daughter was at a dormitory with her improv troupe, and they were not really aware of what was going on and not sure what was being done to protect them, and they were locked up until 1:15 in the morning. We're also joined by Sam Windsor, the son of our co-host, Shawn Windsor, who's here and had a harrowing night as well, and Patrick Parton, who's a friend of his. He's a kid from Ann Arbor. He went to MSU. He still likes the Wolverines, but we're going to put that aside today because even Dan Leach is cheering for the Spartans today because this is one of those things where blue and yellow comes together and makes green. I know it's a cliche, but we're all in this together because the sad thing is these shootings happen everywhere, and we don't know where they're going to happen next. We don't want them to happen, but we're pretty sure that they are going to happen. And Mark Fellhauer is here too. So we want to just briefly thank the people who make this show possible. David Hall of Hall Financial and Luke Nowacki of Pinnacle Wealth Strategies, two folks who can help you with your finances, which are very important, but they don't seem as important today as trying to make sense of something that just is senseless. So I don't know who wants to go next, gentlemen.
Well,
there's so much to say, but it just feels like it's all kind of pointless.
You 2 were the first 2 guys I thought of when I saw the news because I knew of your connections there and that you had loved ones there. I just wondered how you guys heard. And before we get to Sam and Patrick, like, you know, knowing you have kids there, what's the first thing you do besides reach out to them? What was going through your head when you found out? When did you find out too?
So I got an alert from MSU DPS. I signed up for the text message alerts. I got it at 8:31 just as we were getting ready to play volleyball at the Detroit City Fieldhouse, and it just said there's a live shooter situation, and it just said quite simply, hide, run, fight. Lockdown procedures. It said, in fact, I'll read it to you. At 8:31, MSU police report shots fired incident occurred on or near the East Lansing campus. Secure in place immediately. Run, hide, fight. And we pretty much didn't have any official word from them by text until, they never really sent a text saying that the situation is resolved, but I think they were also getting swamped. I heard that the cell towers were overwhelmed and people couldn't even get through with texts, let alone going up there because the roads were closed.
I was actually driving downtown Ann Arbor to pick up my brother-in-law from work. He works at the Michigan Theater as a projectionist, and I often go get him. And I got a call from my wife, and she said, I just talked to Sam. And that's how I found out. And so I immediately found out he was okay, which was right. So that kind of takes the temperature down.
Okay for now.
No, for sure. But she was on the phone with him, and then we hung up, and then I called Sam, and then we talked for a bit. So, and I could tell, he was struggling, obviously, but I knew he was okay, at least for then. And I didn't have all the information like anybody, But I thought, okay, he's off campus just a little bit, and so that gives you a little bit of peace, but you never know. And we can talk about this as the reports came in. At one point, Sam thought there were gunshots, a few homes down, a block away. He heard about on the scanner, and that, although we didn't hear that in real time, but yeah. So there was a lot of misinformation. There was obviously some truth mixed in as well. But the main thing for me and for Sam as mom was that we were on the phone with him for most of the night, and we knew he was okay in that way.
Well, let's bring in Sam, and Sam, what's that like to call your mom? I mean, it's the first thing you say is, "I'm okay," but I mean, how do you approach that?
Well, I mean, she called me, and I knew immediately what she was calling for, because at that point, I think it was 20 minutes after most of the community was basically aware of the situation. And so I was like glad that she was calling, and that we were able to talk in that time, that I could just, help her relax, because I obviously knew that her and my dad were going to be worried, as well as my brother. But I was honestly very tense at the time, and for most of the night, I ended up barricading my door and just laying on the floor. But I was just worrying and thinking of Patrick for the whole time, because he was actually on campus, and our apartment's about a mile north of Berkey Hall, where the first shooting was. So I wasn't too worried about myself necessarily. I was just thinking about Patrick the whole time.
Well, Patrick, what went through your mind? I mean, how did you find out? And I mean, how quick were you able to contact your family, your loved ones, and even Sam to let him know that, yeah, I'm okay?
So I was in the middle of my internship, which is the MSU Adaptive Sports Program. And we were at Jennison Hall. We were setting up for an event. And a few of the other interns got a email, and it was like the run, hide, fight, like subject line. And we're like, oh, is this like for real? Is this like fake? Like, what's going on? And then we started to get more information in from like other people. And then we're like, oh, this is like a big deal. So we ended up just barricading ourselves inside of a locker room and placing stuff on the doors, just making sure like no one could get in, lights were off, all of that. And it was honestly a little bit before I like reached out to people, because I totally spaced on it, because it's not your first thought.
Sure.
I mean, it was a tense situation.
Your first thought is survival.
Yeah.
Right. Not reaching out to your parents or your roommate or your brothers,
Yeah.
Well, if I didn't say it, I want to apologize for not starting the show with this. And if I did say it, I don't think we can say it enough. We've got our kids. We've been in touch with our kids pretty much since this happened. But there's 3 families who have lost their kids, and there are 5 families that don't know what's going to happen to their kids. And so I don't know if you believe in prayer or you're a big good karma, or Santeria, if you want to sacrifice a hen or something like that. I would suggest that this would be a good time to try and get whatever juju you've got going.
Whatever works, yeah.
Towards those folks, because, when you send your kid to college, it's exciting because they're off on their own, and maybe it's exciting because you finally got the little shits out of the house and you can start to live your life again. But you're also, I'm not talking about Sam, I'm thinking more Patrick, because he's a big Wolverine fan still. Maybe they should have sent him to Alabama or something. But then you're also worried because what's going to happen to him, and something like this happens. I mean, it's inconceivable. And the reports that we were getting throughout the night, Shawn and I were corresponding, and Marc was too, because we bust each other's agates, but we're all good friends and we're all concerned about each other's families. And I remember sending something to Shawn and saying, "Good news! I hear they're moving away from the Union," because I think we thought maybe you had somebody over by the IM or something like that, the intramural sports building. And then later on, then they report that it's near Berkey Hall, like, oh, that they're moving close to where my kid is at Snyder Phillips. And then there was another report later on that they found a body at the intramural building. There were all these erroneous reports going on because people were just posting what they were hearing over the scanner. And this isn't to criticize the police. What goes over the scanner is what they're hearing, and they're trying to get bodies to wherever they think there's the greatest need. But it was maddening how you could not get your arms around what was going on. It was just every time you turned around, they're finding bodies, or there's somebody, a building has been swept or a building hasn't been swept. I mean, it was that fear of not knowing what's going on and feeling completely and utterly powerless. That is.
Yeah, I talked to my brother at one point last night who lives in Oakland County, and his daughter, Sam's cousin, Mallory, who's on campus there. And my brother was telling me, he was listening to a scanner too, and he said there were multiple shooters, reports of multiple shooters. And I know Sam, I don't know if Patrick heard that. Maybe Sam
Well, before the show,
texted, but Sam heard that too.
we were talking a little bit, and I was asking Patrick, and Patrick, you can, elaborate on this. He referred to they. We heard they were here, because the first reports you got were multiple shooters, or you saw a picture of 3 people. Is that correct,
Yeah.
Patrick?
Yeah, so we're getting a lot of information from just like Twitter and like the radio and anywhere we could. And this picture kept circulating of, it was like a shot of 3 people with it looked like assault rifles. And we all assumed it was just the shooter. So we thought it was multiple people. And so when we kept on getting information that they're at Berkey or the Union, or maybe near IM Circle or West or IM East, we just thought there was multiple people all around. So it just wasn't safe anywhere. So I think that was probably the worst part, because we didn't know it was going to happen or go on.
How many people were you sheltering with? Were a group of you?
Yeah, it was about 10 to 13. I'm not totally sure the number.
And so was everybody, deep in their phones looking at Twitter and like, oh, look at this, look at that.
Oh, yeah. So we had all the lights off, and obviously the sound on our phones all completely off. And everyone was in their own little spot trying to figure out what's going on, texting like loved ones and friends and people they know on campus, and then people out of state, letting them know what's going on. And so we were just trying to pool all the information we could together, which honestly, in hindsight, wasn't the best, because we didn't really get a clear view of what was happening, and just a lot of just fake stuff. But it was also a little comforting that we were able to just be able to receive any kind of information rather than just be completely off the grid, locked in a room.
That's an interesting point. Is a little bit of misinformation better than no information? I don't know the answer to that. I was telling both ML and Shawn before the show, I was appalled at a couple local news channels here, because they would put any student on and let that student basically relay what they have seen from text messaging or chats, and they were just putting misinformation. At one time there were bombs in multiple buildings, and they repeated the multiple shooter stuff, and a lot of stuff coming from the scanner, which is unverified, without even mentioning that. I thought that was just utterly insane to do that, because then you have people here in Oakland County that have family and loved ones there and want to go out there because they're hearing all this bullshit.
Well, it was a good lesson for us too, and Mike can attest to this. The editor of the Free Press sent out an email last night reminding everybody not to tweet based off what they were hearing off the scanner, because you can't verify it. And it's just a world we're in. We have access to this real-time information, but not the time to sift through to make sure it's actually real information. And so to get that email last night from our executive editor was like, oh yeah, this is really something. We have to remember what we do and what we're trained to do as journalists in these situations. And it's probably easy to forget when it's just coming at you second after second after second.
And these television anchors, it's a tough job to sit there and talk about a horrific incident without any information whatsoever. But you got to remind people that what these people are saying is all rumor. It's not based on, it hasn't been verified.
Sam, were you texting Patrick trying to help him with maybe some information that you had access to that he didn't?
Yeah. Whenever I thought that there was something that was confirmed, I would let him know, because I was watching the news, and then I also had my phone on Twitter, but I was on YouTube watching this, I think this pretty reputable source. I think it was, I don't know if I can say the name of it on here, but it was called Agenda Free TV. And,
no, you can't say the name.
Yeah. You are just like your dad. Can I ask a question?
Any information or breaking news that was coming out was not being relayed on this news source unless if it had been confirmed by the MSU Police Department or multiple other sources. So anytime I let Patrick know something that I know, I said, this is unconfirmed, but there's reports of this or there's reports of that. Or if there was something that was confirmed, I'd let him know, obviously, that it was confirmed. And I think that was part of the issue, was that there were so many calls going into the police, and there were so many people listening to the radio and the news as things were happening, that these reports were coming from all over the campus. And that's kind of, I think, what led to the unrest was people were just calling in when they heard screaming, when students were leaving or getting cleared out of buildings. And then they would call the police and say, oh, maybe there's gunshots here. And it just sort of led to this fiasco. And that's when I started getting scared at my apartment, because the scanners said that there was reported shots at Abbott in the quarters, which is basically like 300 feet from our building. And so that's when I barricaded my door. But I think that ended up being a false report. But so that was just kind of fueling the fire of all of the anxiety, I think, was just the unknown and the falsified information that was going on.
As someone who's worked in TV and in print, there's a different challenge for each of them. In TV, you're trying to fill all the space, so you're on constantly, and you have to keep going. In print, we can drop back a little bit and verify things, and that's why, again, I thought Fox did a pretty good job last night. I thought Roop Raj had a pretty steady hand on the rudder in his first real test as the main anchor there. But in print, we can kind of go dark for a little while and do some digging and post some stuff. So I think, and this may seem self-serving, but I'll just tell you, as someone who has friends at every news outlet in town, if there's something like this going on, this is when you really want the mainstream media. This is really when you want the free press and the news to be your main news source, because we're not posting stuff to be first. We're posting stuff that we've confirmed that we know is right. And sometimes it means we don't get it up right away. But I'm old enough to remember when the reports came out that Ronald Reagan's press secretary was dead. Oh. Now, he actually died 30 years later, but people wanted to get that report out. He was just very badly injured. James Brady, you may remember him. There's a gun control legislation named after him.
I'll say Alexander Haig didn't really help that cloud of what was going on.
He's in charge here.
Yeah.
But one of the things with this wrong information is, so I had a hockey buddy who was giving me a hard time. He says, I heard on the scanner that the shooter's killed. And I said, I believe you, but I told him the story about James Brady, and he's like, well, would you rather have known 30 minutes ago that the shooter was dead? I'm like, well, if you were wrong and I told my kid they can leave the dormitory and they run into the shooter, no, I want it official that the shooter's dead. And the misinformation can be very dangerous. It can certainly help pass the time, but so can angry birds and whatever else you get on your phone.
And this is the problem. And I was just saying after the Super Bowl how great Twitter was after the Super Bowl. A lot of people were having fun with it. It was kind of a fun atmosphere to be in. Last night, there was so much misinformation, and then you start seeing tweets of, hey, here's the shooter, and it's absolutely not the guy. And it's just...
Sam mentioned that last night to me, that there were, or maybe mentioned to Ann, but that there were photos that had been photoshopped going around, and how frustrating that was too. Right.
I'm sure somebody had let's go Brandon and Joe Biden was the shooter or something. I mean, there's all kinds of assholes.
It wasn't even political. It was just someone doing it for clout. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask Patrick. So, at what time did you get the all clear, and what was that feeling like? I mean, was it eerie walking out back onto campus where this happened? And what did you see? Did you see? Did you see, I would assume, tons of police, not much, I don't know if there was bodies or anything. I don't want to get too morbid.
We didn't, I think we got the all clear around like 1 or like 12:30. And honestly, it was just refreshing, like hearing that after, like they kept pushing this, it was like the news or press conference.
Yeah.
They kept pushing it back further and further. So you're like, it's like, are we going to be here all night? Are we going to be here for the next 5 minutes? Like, we don't know. So getting the email is nice, and getting off onto campus, it was really strange. So there was a lot of people like walking in pairs or in big groups back to wherever they came from. I had to walk to get my car to bring it around to pick someone up, and there was a helicopter parked, in like, Demonstration Hall. There's like a big field by like the Sparty statue. So there's a helicopter parked there, still going. And so it was just a weird like sight. It reminded me a bit of like back during 2020, I think, with COVID, when people were starting to like leave campus, and it was just like you could hear a pin drop, honestly. Like not a ton of people, everyone just flocking away.
it's, and I don't think I'm giving anybody any ideas here, but a college campus is the most horrible place to have something like this. You got cars from all over the place who maybe nobody's driven for a while, so they're not going to miss them, different out-of-state plates. You got buildings full of rooms that are dark because they're closed for the evening. You got dormitories where anybody can get into a room, and you might have to search hundreds of rooms in a building before you're sure that nobody's being held hostage. And when you lock these, the first investigation I ever did as a reporter was on dorm security and how kids would prop doors open. And my daughter was with her improv troupe in a dormitory in a basement theater. At least that's what we thought. And, the signal's bad in the basement. It's an old building. So if somebody's pounding on the door to say, let me in, they're probably going to let them in. So we're trying to reach them just to say, hey, do you know what's going on campus? Get with your group. And they were still doing their gig. And I didn't want to terrify them and say, you guys need to get the hell under a desk right now. And I think it kind of dawned on them. So my wife, Teresa, called the dormitory and said, hey, what are you guys doing for security? Do you know there's a bunch of kids in the basement? And they said, yeah, the front desk person whispered, it's like, I'm not supposed to be talking, but we've locked the building and no one's supposed to come in. Well, if you're some kid on the top floor who's jamming your tunes, which is what the kids say these days, you don't know about that. You're going to walk out the back door and think you're getting a pizza and somebody's going to put a muzzle in your face. I mean, this is the absolute worst place to have a gunman on the loose. It's a lush campus. There was a kid who walked away from a party drunk and was not that far from a dormitory. They didn't find him for months. I mean, that's how easy it is to hide there and to get lost there. And then the police, which is a somewhat small police department, they have hundreds of cops from every jurisdiction coming in to help. So now you've got to organize, okay, who's going to do what? And I know you want to help, but can you wait a minute because we're trying to deploy people and set up a command center. The fact that it went as I don't want to say as well as it went, but that it didn't go worse is, I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's interesting because watching it last night, it hit me. It's like, look at this response from all these different jurisdictions that are coming in to help out. I mean, it's a great
Flint
thing.
Police were blocking some roads, I heard.
Yeah. And
it's a long drive.
I have a 9-year-old. I wanted to let her know about this so she didn't hear it at school and maybe get scared and try to explain it to her. And I said, look, it's one bad guy. 'Cause she really wanted to know, who did this? Why would somebody do this? That didn't compute in her head. And I said, but the thing you got to remember is look at all the people that ran to danger to help out, to assist, to help catch the bad guy, and then help everybody that's left in the wake. Because it's not just the 3 dead. It's not just the 5 that are, hanging on to their life right now. It's people like Sam and Patrick that are going to remember this forever. And this is when a community, kind of gets together, and that's a good thing.
One of the things that really, really got me last night, and I didn't tell Sam this, and I don't know if Patrick knows this, so he probably figured it out just because of the way the night unfolded, but at one point, Ann and I wanted to go get him, and the police were saying, like a lot of parents did, right? And the police are saying, stay away, it's just going to create chaos. And we thought, well, he's a little bit north of campus, so maybe there's a way, or, in any case, you don't want to buck that. But so we asked him, said, hey, you want some company, or you just come up, or even my other son, Sam's brother, Jake, he said, hey, I'll go up and hang out with him. But Sam, and I'm not one to always brag on my kids publicly, but I'm going to do it here. Sam said, no, I'm staying for Patrick. I'm not leaving until he gets home, and I know he's home safe. And then we will either stay the night here or go, depending on what he wants to do, because he was the one that was, locked in the locker room for all those hours. And, you were joking about your kids earlier. When you hear something like that come out of your kid's mouth, you think, okay.
You did good?
Yeah. Well, no, not that I did good, but he's
recessive genes.
But I was just, I was really moved by that.
It's reassuring.
Very proud of that.
Yeah.
Well, I think you did see a lot of concerns for students for each other, but we tell our kids, particularly those of us who have daughters, watch out for strangers on campus, and use your keys to fight and spray them. And somebody with a gun, you just can't. I mean, this is. And Teresa interviewed a woman last night who actually sold us a car. She, you can find the story at freep.com. We saw her on TV, or we heard her on TV. Her daughter had friends who were killed at Oxford. She was an Oxford high school student, and some of her friends were killed. And this is her first year at Michigan State, and she's across the street where she can hear the gunshots. What do you tell that kid? It's going to be okay. In the last couple of years, she's had friends mowed down in her high school, and she goes away to college, a somewhat idyllic setting, a little bit more pastoral. And there's gunshots across the street from somebody else. I mean, I don't know that you can, in good conscience, tell a kid like that, this can't happen again. Don't worry about it.
I was thinking about this last night, and I don't know if this is true for you, Patrick, but I was thinking about with Sam and all the other kids that have to go back to the Union. Mm-hmm. Sam's got a couple of classes in Berkey Hall where the shooting started. What the psychology of that? What's that going to feel like for you guys? I mean, maybe you can't imagine, but I bet you can in some ways, about going back into these buildings where this just happened.
Well, I mean, Patrick and I both said, like, screw going to the Union ever again. We're not doing that. But I've had a class at Berkey Hall every semester. I've been a student at Michigan State, and this semester I have 2 classes there. So I guess part of me is hoping that there will be an email or some sort of notification that we'll have the chance to have Zoom maybe for the rest of the semester or something of that nature. But I can't describe what it would feel like going back there. I think it would be eerie for sure. But since I wasn't like exactly on campus or obviously like a part of it when everything was going down like others were, I don't think that I will have the same emotions, I guess. So it might not be as hard or tough on me. But
Berkey Hall, that is just a classroom hall, right? That's not a residential.
No,
just for classroom.
It tends to be a lot of the liberal arts classes and maybe some of the life sciences, but it's right on Grand River. It's right across from the Peanut Barrel. I mean, I was parked at Berkey Hall last Tuesday for the Michigan State Maryland game. I mean, this is the gateway to campus. This is a building that people on football Saturdays they go in and out to use the bathroom. I mean, this is high traffic area.
I wanted to get your opinion on this because another thing I was talking to my daughter about, because she knows her school just got all new doors, like safety doors. And she's like, why don't they all just have those safety doors? And I said, well, residence halls have pretty good safety. They have locked doors. You have to use your key card to get in. There's people at a front desk. I said, but the idea of a public university is that it's open. It's open to the public. I mean, you should be able to go in to a library or a public institution like that. So then my thought was, well, should there be some kind of entrance lock on these halls? I didn't know what your opinion would be on that. Do you think it's supposed to be this open public institution, or should the doors be locked?
I think that question is for the boys because
would you feel safer?
You guys would have to go through those doors.
This is the last question I think we have for them, and then we need to let them go. But
understandable.
Yeah. Do you want to ask that again, Mike?
What was the question? Sorry.
Well, just about the safety within these buildings being open all the time. I mean, do you think it should be that way, or do you think it should be harder to get into, a classroom building or a union?
I don't know. I think it's a tough question because places like the Union, I mean, I like how it's like public and like open for everyone because they have events there, and it adds a lot to the environment, which I always appreciated because I like going there and seeing like farmers markets and things like that. For the classrooms, though, I mean, I think it would be a little nicer having the, I guess, peace of mind knowing that some of the doors are locked and that maybe you can only get in using like your key card, like all the student IDs. Just like knowing that, I mean, this can't happen again, or at least if it does, that it's there's a little more of like a cushion between you and someone else.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think there's any harm if it's a campus building where the only purpose is serving as a dormitory or classrooms for students only, then I wouldn't see the harm in having to have some sort of key card if you are a student to get in that building, or faculty or staff of something like that. So
here's the practical matter. The flow of human beings going in and out of these buildings, particularly some of the really big academic halls like Wells Halls, where there's a lecture hall that has hundreds of people, if you're a face in a crowd, you're just going to flow right in. And kids hold doors open for people all the time because they're generally courteous kids, and they don't think the guy next to them is going to be the last asshole they help get into a building. And we don't know the circumstances of how this guy got the weapons. We do know that he was convicted of, or pleaded guilty, which is a conviction of having a gun in his car that he shouldn't have had. But can we make it harder to get guns than it is to get into academic buildings? Than to make it harder than it is to get into places, a union? You know what a union is? A union is a place where people come together. That's why a reunion is when people come back together.
And I think we need more of that. I think we need more public spaces. I mean, we're so shut off from each other, and social media helps us be, shut off in our own little world. Public spaces are a good thing.
Yeah, I don't want to go to church with an armed gunman there. I don't want a synagogue to have a security guard there.
No.
I'm tired of having to take everything off before I go into some place. It's about time for us to get a hold of the people who are doing this. And if we can't get a hold of the people who are doing this, we need to keep them away from the things that they're using to kill people. And at some point, maybe it's today, and we say that regularly, so it probably isn't, but we got to do something about all these guns. And I don't care if you have a gun, if you like guns. I like guns. I like to shoot guns. I've said that before. I've said I'm a good shot. People don't necessarily believe that. But a gun, I guess we talk about it being a right, the Second Amendment, everything like that. I think we need to think about it being a little bit more of a privilege, and it needs to be something where you can prove you're responsible with it. And I'd also say that if you are a gun owner and you let your gun get out of your hands and something bad happens with it, that maybe you should face those same consequences, because there's a responsibility when you have a weapon to be in control of that weapon. Because when you let it get out of your hands, it can get in the wrong hands. And I don't think by the time we know more about this guy, we're going to find out that he was some sort of genius. We're going to find out he's a pathetic loser with serious problems, and someone who really should be pitied if he didn't do this heinous thing. But how could he get guns?
The Second Amendment is a right. It's not a privilege, but there are limitations on rights, just like there are for free speech. But Sam and Patrick,
the Supreme Court has made some rulings on that question that are
I know, but there's limitations on all rights. That was my only point.
Yeah. No. I'm not saying take everybody's guns away. Don't get me wrong. But I am saying they're just too easy to get. They are too easy to get. That Wayne State Police sergeant who was killed by a mentally ill man who had a gun and just straight up shot him. And when I posted something about that, and it was about 10 years ago, that there's just too many guns out there, I was immediately attacked because people are like, blah, blah, blah. No, we've got to do better. We've got to stop talking about it. We got to do something.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Patrick. It's tough. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you deal with it today, but you guys did a hell of a job talking about it.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks.
We're going to go get something to eat. We haven't had a bite to eat yet today. So.
You deserve it. Go get something to eat. I sent you a little something.
Oh,
thank you.
What you sent?
Just a little something to help them go. A little something to help both of them go eat.
Yeah. Sean's old, so it's probably Starlight Mints. Sorry, boys. Get to Jersey Giants. Go to the one by Frandor. It's
they're back in your favorite town.
Yeah.
Oh, they are? Okay. Yeah. Well, I hope you send them a lot, because they might go to that deli that everybody gets crazy about. Is it Zingerman's?
They got enough to go to Zingerman's.
Yeah.
$20 sandwich place.
All right, well, let's let them get out of here. Thanks again for spending some time with us and talking about what you went through. I know it's not easy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a great day, guys.
Okay. See you
Thanks,
guys.
fellas.
See you guys soon.
Don't forget to like us and rate us and subscribe to us on. I got it's statutory.
Oh my God.
But so I didn't want to ask Patrick this because he was very generous with his time. But one of the things you don't think about with these guys is this is probably the quietest a bunch of kids have been together in a room for a long time, because nobody's making a noise.
Well, their phones are on silent, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's dark, and the only light's probably from the screen of the phones. You can imagine that he painted a really
it's like that John Krasinski movie. You make a noise, you could die.
Oh, Quiet Place. Yeah.
But here's the other thing you don't think about. Where are you going to the can? Because I know a kid who was on campus, holed up, and they had to take a piss in a trash can in a room probably full of a bunch of their friends.
Actually,
who are all hiding.
if I'm not mistaken, either Sam or Ann, one of them told me that was an issue for Patrick last night, trying to find a bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the other kids that were in there with him.
Well, that's the thing. You're not going to leave the room and look for a bathroom. You're going to find what's around there.
I mean, you imagine me in that situation? Yeah.
Fair point. Yeah.
What, you piss in a trash can here, and there's no threat other than
Just you.
Because I can't get
other
upstairs.
than a bladder infection. you
Yeah,
know,
I can't get upstairs to the bathroom.
Yeah, it's because you love the new wave music. You don't want to leave in the middle of it. We really appreciate that. Well, it's those guys are doing great, and I don't know about Shawn or Sam, but I think Patrick's from a good family, so he should be okay. But you really don't know what's going to happen to these kids for a while because this is all fresh and raw. They haven't had any sleep. As I just told you a minute ago, they haven't eaten anything, and this is the kind of thing that I think sort of drips in on you, where you are at Berkey Hall,
Absolutely,
and you think you're okay, and all of a sudden you got to leave the room because you're like, you know what, I'm not okay.
No
I
question.
didn't realize it.
No question.
And the kids that we have today struggle so much with just peace of mind that I know the university is overwhelmed trying to find enough therapists and counselors to work with them. That was before today. Now there's potentially 45,000 clients. How are those kids all going to get somebody to talk to and someone to make a relationship where they can trust to share their feelings going forward, particularly for the guys, because, we just tend to be miserable. The women are better about talking to people about their feelings, but we just kind of drink beer, smoke weed, and start fights, and drive too fast. I hope that everybody who's feeling like they got something they need to get off their chest just goes ahead and does it, because there's no shame in it. In fact, if you don't feel like you need to talk to somebody these days, you're probably one of the few.
By the way, did you see any family resemblance? I'm not trying to make light here, but could you see any at all?
He was a very handsome man. Is that where you're going? Because I was thinking recessive genes again. But
I want to see a younger picture of you.
No,
He has all his hair.
He does. No, there's not a lot. Yeah. My oldest son is the one that takes after my side of the family. He takes after his mom's side. So
they're both good-looking boys, and it makes me wonder.
with their mind, is that what you're saying?
No, of course they're yours. He got on the podcast and he immediately wanted to go get something to eat. I knew it. I knew right away this guy's a Windsor.
He also asked a question about if he could do something, and he just did it anyway.
And then he just did it anyways. Yeah, yes. It's the insolence. I mean, but
dudes, man.
Short of telling somebody there's an active shooter, these Windsors don't listen to anybody. But no, they good. You got good boys, so you should be very proud of them.
I am, and I'm relieved, like a lot of parents are. Unfortunately, there's some families that aren't, and I guess I'm grateful for that too. But well aware that next time it could be me or somebody I know a lot more. Or, it's just with the frequency that these happen.
Well, and we can't lock everything down. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just it's
or
not
arm everybody, right? That's not the answer either. We can't arm because what is that? That's not going to do. I mean, Uvalde's a good example of that. They had a SWAT team out the door and still couldn't stop that kid.
This sounds awful, but I think we're just at the place where we accept that these bad things are really going to happen.
As somebody pointed out last night,
nobody has any interest in solving anything.
Well, as somebody pointed out last night, it was an older tweet from 6-7 years ago. But once Sandy Hook happened, and we decided, hey, we're okay with elementary kids, and we're not going to do much. We're not going to do anything about it. Then that was it. Yeah, that was it.
If that alarm didn't wake you up, it just you're just gonna go through life with your eyes closed. And I think this has become very political, and I think people have taken, on both sides, have taken gun control and tried to score points with it. It's time for us to be a lot more bipartisan about it and to come together on some things. We saw a little bit about that in the past year, but we have a lot of people who need to be helped, who need institutions, and we just don't have them, and we don't have a way to deal with that. And nobody's going to pass a law in the next year or in the next hour or really in the next 5 years that's going to stop this. But we need to understand that it's a long-term solution, and the sooner we get there depends on how soon we start, because it's not going to be anything that happens quickly. But we have got to get moving on this, because this is not acceptable. When it happened in Oxford, it finally came to our doorsteps. For those of us who live in mid-Michigan or have children at Michigan State or work at Michigan State, it's now on our front porch. It's this is
It's so commonplace, ML. My one thought was, hey, this could have been a lot worse. Which is no, I don't know.
Yeah.
No consolation for the people that are injured.
That's
or
the
went
thing.
through
That's
it.
the thing when you say, that's the thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm sick of telling people, buck up. At least you're not dead. That really feels like a binary choice that I don't want.
No, but I'm
be left
at the
with.
point where, wow, this could have been a lot worse in terms of fatalities.
Oh,
Not that it happened. Not
No,
that it happened and
I-
people are going to be affected, but wow, this could have been worse.
Yeah.
I
I'm so grateful our kids and so many of the people we know and love are okay because
They are okay physically, right? But this is going to linger. I just got a text.
Sure.
I just got a text from the family that my brother's daughter, Mallory, who's a freshman up there in a dorm, she and a friend of hers drove home once they were cleared in the middle of the night. They just wanted to get home, and when she walked in the house, my sister-in-law, Mallory's mother, said Mallory just broke down and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And my guess is there are thousands of kids who had a very similar reaction late last night or this morning.
well, the reason why my daughters aren't on the show is because they're still dealing with it, and I don't think they're alone. And I want to say something about the police because we criticize the police when they have it coming, but I'll tell you, I know my way around that part of the state pretty well. And roadblocks or not, I could have got to Williamston and I could have pulled a bike out of the back of my trunk and I could have ridden into campus and I could have gone and grabbed my kids and got them out of there. But I did have a feeling like the police were on the scene and they were the best suited to deal with this. And it's an incredibly impotent feeling to think that you are waiting to find out whether doing nothing was the right decision. And if it wasn't, you have to live with that for the rest of your life. But the police did a really good job and they, they didn't lose anybody.
I was amazed at how quick buildings were cleared. Not easy buildings, I wouldn't think.
Oh, and this is at night too. These things tend to happen during the day, right? It's just you're right. Sprawling campus, like you said, lush campus. Even though there are no leaves right now, but
And to that point, I understand.
Plus, you tell everybody get out. This guy can be a face in that crowd. He can just ride that wave of bodies right out to Liberty. I mean, oh my.
And
God,
he
what a
did. He
nightmare.
did. He left out of the north entrance of the Union. The police said, and just kind of walked away. And
home. Yeah.
Sam told me that he saw a photo of him at one point, just sort of casually walking down the street.
Yeah.
Before he got to wherever it was when he took his life.
And someone did spot him and call police, and that's how they, converged on him to where then he took his own life right before he got home. It sounds like.
Well, I feel terrible saying this because I do believe in the sanctity of life. But when I heard this guy blew himself out, I was like, well done. I was very relieved.
Well, I'm sure all the
It's
kids,
no loss.
all the students, kids up there were relieved, right, that the threat was over. And it's interesting because Mark and I were talking about this before we started recording, Mike, and I understand that relief. And absolutely, at the same time, when I was talking to Sam when that happened, and you could hear it in real time on the scanners. We're talking about the misinformation. Well, there's a lot of truth on the scanners too, right? Because the cops are also reporting some stuff that's happening, including that when he shot him, and that there was a man out there who fit the description of the suspect who shot himself. And then you could hear either the police, or if there were first responders, there was probably police at that point trying to give him CPR, and that made me feel relieved and okay too, because that are the structures of our society, the fundamental things we believe, even though they probably had a 95% idea, 99% idea that was the shooter, there's still some due process, and there's still some, even though this guy did what he just did, I'm still going to try and save his life. And then he'll go through the criminal justice system, whatever. But
we'll hang him later.
I agree,
but
I'm so glad he's dead.
But I like that when there's chaos, that there's still small signs of our society, and that was I don't know. I found that
I agree with that, but I'm glad
heartening in a way that the human being who, and I don't know if it was a police officer or a first responder, I'm guessing it was a cop, performed CPR. I just think that's a humane and reflective of a humane
this guy doing
society.
his job.
No, that's right, and he is innocent until proven guilty, although I think he went out with a lot of evidence on him. But
He did.
I mean, up until the moment this guy decided to go to campus and do this, my guess is by the time we get to the bottom of it, and the Free Press did interview his brother in Delaware, and I encourage you to read what he had to say. I think what we're going to find out is this was a very pathetic human being. Yep. This is someone who, up until the moment he decided to try and kill his fellow man, deserved our pity. But there is a point where you cross over, and if you're not getting help, and if we can't help you, we have to stop you. And I'm relieved also for the officers that this guy ended his own life, because if you had to take somebody's life, that's a heavy burden on you. So at least he spared them. So I guess thanks, asshole. But rest in peace. But I'm having trouble feeling really bad that you're gone. But I am sorry for the terrible life you left. And
to your point,
for the terrible legacy that you live.
Pity, you're right. Didn't you say ultimately there's probably going to be some of that when you
pathetic.
Look at
That's what pathos is. He's a pathetic, horrible person, but there's also pathos there. There's
because people don't come out that way.
Yeah, this is not what anybody aspires to. That's not why he went to Michigan State.
No.
But I think we'll know more about him in the coming days. But I think we really want to focus our efforts on doing whatever we can to help the people who are struggling. And so I'm sure you'll see over the next couple of days funds to support people here and there.
Make sure they're legit.
Yeah, make sure they're legit sure.
And that's what's driving me nuts about this too, is all this misinformation and the idea that people might, I don't know if they have, but might start a GoFundMe for their own purposes. You know what I mean? Not for the families. Oh, there's a lot of scammers out there.
It happens all the time.
The misinformation last night was, I don't know. I was really pissed off about some of the stuff coming out of my television. It's like, you don't know that. And I was telling Shawn, I mean, we're older. We've seen these. When you hear multiple shooters, that's so unlikely. So why doesn't somebody mention?
Has that happened other than Columbine?
But 3 shooters, if it has,
I mean, even more than one.
I'm sure it has, because I feel like everything's happened, but it's very rare.
Columbine's the one that sticks out in my mind.
Yeah,
two of them, Klebold and Harris. Yeah,
well, it's funny how we remember their names, because back then it was shocking in a way that it's just not now, and that is pretty pathetic.
It really is. Yeah.
Speaking of pathetic,
well, we've been groomed. We've been groomed by Wayne LaPierre, who Wayne, when you get the call, let me just suggest that you dress light in that coffin, because where you're going, it is not going to be cold. You are not going to need that windbreaker. You are going to be engulfed in sulfur and flame and brimstone, and you will be sodomized on an hourly basis by a spear. And I wish you all the best down there, my friend. I may be with you. And if I am, I will make sure that spear is sharpened on an hourly basis, because you have been the leader in this nation from keeping us from having a real discussion about responsible gun ownership and about limitations that may make sense for people because of politics and because we now know that you love money so much.
Yeah, money.
So you're willing to sacrifice your fellow man for money, for privilege, for luxury. Guess what, buddy? You're going to meet the devil. And he's going to look a lot like you.
Let me just say this real quickly. Speaking of the Columbine, and I'm curious, if you can remember this far back about what it was like when you heard about that. I was working for a newspaper in Alabama, and I was up in Tennessee going to a story when I heard about it on the radio. And the internet wasn't the thing it was quite obviously.
You listen on the Marconi.
And I will never forget that feeling. That feeling of
network.
But do you remember that? Did you guys have a similar feeling? I remember
vividly.
The pit in the stomach that we were headed to some kind of anarchy. That we were. How could it be that what was happening to the fundamental structures of the society that would let this happen? It was so new.
I was too dumb. I'm too dumb to think that. But if you remember, before that, we had Paducah, we had Pearl, Mississippi. There was one in Oregon. There was one in San Diego. So there were a few smaller individuals.
The San Diego one had been. Oh, you're talking about McDonald's.
San Ysidro.
Well, that was 81. It was outside of San Diego. There was another school shooting around that time. But there had been smaller ones leading up to Columbine. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I remember that day vividly. Vividly. It's funny you mentioned the McDonald's one because I want to say that was 81.
It was. That stuck with me.
I would have been
It was
5 years
It was
old.
in the early 80s. I remember that because I was in college, I want to say, in Austin. But I just remember that feeling when Columbine happened. We don't have that feeling now, do we? Maybe for young people they do, but we don't.
No, now it's about...
It's happened twice in a year here in Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not like...
It happens every month.
Yeah. But
right?
I mean...
on some level,
Michigan,
maybe more than that.
In one of 50 states, we were spared. Now we've been hit twice. I mean, I don't like that. I don't like that batting average. That's not good. That's not good at all.
You can't even keep up with them. And there was the guy that went into the mall in Omaha a few years ago. I only remember that because I have family in Omaha, but there's so many of them now. We can't remember them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Okay.
Well, that's
moving on.
That's
I don't know.
bleak. So we do have some more lighthearted portions of the show. We're going to have room 7609. We're going to have a little new wave music for you. Something not too upbeat, but something a little soothing, I hope. And after we tell you a little bit about some people who can help make your life easier, which is probably something that we could all use right now, we're going to have a special Geek of the Week. But Mark, before we get to that, let's hear a little bit about two really generous people. And I want to emphasize something about there is a lot of kindness and a lot of just solid gold human beings out there. Clark Park, we were trying to raise $5,000 online, and it was looking pretty bleak, and we extended the deadline by 10 days. And just when it looked like that campaign was about to collapse, and this is money that helps kids and helps kids get raised right so they don't go off the rails like some of the people we've been talking about. And I don't mean Sam and Patrick, although that Wolverine fan thing makes me wonder if time for an intervention. But there's a guy, and I'm not going to name him, although his name may be Luke, who sent us $1,000. And this is a guy who is just one of the people who, when we sit here and say humanity is really desperate, I'm reminded of some people who tell me that there's a lot more good guys out there than bad guys.
Luke is a genuinely really good guy, and I don't know, is it irony or is it just odd that he lives up near not to dox him, but he lives up in the East Lansing area, so I'm sure he's feeling it too. But so yeah, I'll tell you about Luke Nowacki, because if you got a big financial decision, so just purchasing a new home, car, anything you got going on, you got to know how that's going to affect your future financial goals. Luke is a money guy. He knows it well. Pinnacle Wealth Strategies is his team. He can help you plan for all your financial goals, both today and into the future. And like ML said, really solid guy. Call Luke today, 248-663-4748. He's going to give you a complimentary consultation to see if your plan will align with your goals.
And I hope Luke doesn't mind that I mentioned his generosity, because when you call Luke, he will make it all about you, sweetheart.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates Inc. Member FINRAS.PC. Royal Alliance Associates Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and/or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Inc.
Another solid man would be
David Hall of Hall Financial.
There you go, Hall Financial. They can help you consolidate your debt, mortgage interest rates. They're moving all over the place. So why don't you give Hall Financial a call, see what they can do. They provide a free 5-minute mortgage review. They can see if you can get money out of your house with the equity to pay off some of those, high debts, those credit card debts, maybe student loans, whatever's going on there. If you got debt, let Hall Financial help you eliminate it. In most cases, you can access your money in 2 weeks or less. So whether you're looking to purchase a new home, refinance the home you're in, you need to call Hall Financial first, 866-CALL-HALL, or chat with them online at callhallfirst.com.
Oh man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek, or we're turning into cool guys?
So obviously a tragic day and night at Michigan State. The New York Times was covering it. The national media was covering it. I suspect the international media was covering it as well.
They were, yeah.
But embedded in the New York Times coverage was a story that said the shooting at Michigan State University on Monday upended the lives of thousands of students. An understatement, to be sure. It also put the school back in the national spotlight. True enough. Years after a sex abuse scandal involving a prominent sports medicine doctor and its faculty became public, the scandal stoked public anger over the administration's handling of sexual assault and set off a series of leadership changes. And then this goes on paragraph after paragraph to recount the Larry Nassar scandal, all of which is a horrible thing that nobody's trying to downplay. But at a time that we're looking at lives being upended, kids' lives being destroyed, lives lost, the New York Times is trying to link that to the Larry Nassar scandal? You've got to be kidding me. This is when you talk about Michigan State, you talk about a massacre on campus and try and bring it back to the Nassar scandal? You know,
that's ridiculous.
I think the world of the New York Times, but this is out of bounds. This is out of line. This is tone deaf. This is ridiculous. It's outrageous. It's offensive. And
it's unrelated.
Yeah, I mean,
it really is unrelated.
Talk about a news non sequitur. It's sort of like ML Elric died yesterday of an unknown disease. By the way, he's got bad breath and a short dick.
I saw another unrelated.
Also not accurate. The Nassar stuff is
unrelated at breath.
I chew gum. That's why I chew the gum.
Do you guys think it's worth mentioning? Because I saw this in a story that the shooter lived in the same hometown as Barry Croft, the kidnapper of Whitmer. Is that really germane to the story?
Talk about a news non sequitur. Absolutely. I mean,
that was odd.
Mike, we do this all the time, right? I mean, and by we, I mean just newspapers. I remember when I first got into the business and started writing news stories, and if something like this happened, well, not like this exactly, but a news story happened, the editors would want what they thought of was context. That's how they think about it. I mean, we're trained to think that way, and I'm glad that we're starting to ask questions, because I think there's been a lot of collateral damage with news stories in the last 30 years. We don't even think about it. We just automatically, if something tragic happens or something bad happens to an institution or a person or whatever, then that stays with them for so long, even if that particular thing doesn't come back up again.
Well, now the New York Times did have a lot of stories about this, so I don't want to pretend that this is the only thing that they wrote, so don't get me wrong. But when I was the obituary writer, I had to write the obituary for an executive at a radio station that fired Ernie Harwell, and that was included prominently in my story. And the family was upset, and I understood why they were upset, which is why I gave them a heads up that I had to do that. But it's because the only that anybody would know who this guy was, because of all of the decisions he made as the head of this radio station, firing Ernie Harwell was the biggest one. And then we went on and told the rest of his life, but we didn't say so-and-so died, he fired Ernie Harwell, and then tell the whole Ernie Harwell story. I mean, if somebody has done something that's raised their profile, good or bad, yes, it's going to be mentioned. I mean, my obituary is now going to say, ML Elric, a real son of a bitch who won the Pulitzer Prize, died yesterday. If anybody cares to write about it,
at the hands of Shawn Windsor.
But that's we can't rule that out. But fair enough.
My hands aren't that strong.
but the thing is, you're going to mention something big in somebody's life, but then you have to tell their whole story. And I just think this is come on, man.
Yeah, it's like writing a story.
All the news that's fit to print. No, that's not fit.
Yeah, you don't talk about OJ and then mention his 273 yards rushing on Thanksgiving Day, do you? Because it's not really related to the murder.
Well,
or if you're telling the story of Hertz Rent-A-Car, you don't say Hertz Rent-A-Car,
from the New
which
York,
once hired a murderer.
Yeah, from the national perspective, right? From the New York, you know what the Times is thinking from the national perspective. The last time
making his getaway in a white Bronco he rented at the airport.
The last time Michigan State was in the news nationally was because of Nassar. So
that's dumb though.
So they're making that link. Okay, they're telling their basketball team. So they're telling their readers, they're not blaming Michigan State. I understand what they're trying to do. It's just, I understand your point though, Mike, but what they're trying to tell their readers is, this poor institution has had some things happen, and not necessarily its fault, but right. So they're saying this gunman comes is the same place where that just is coming off the pain of Larry Nassar, and so that's what they're thinking. Right or wrong?
I think it's wrong.
They're not trying to trash the school. They're just trying to give readers some perspective that this institution's been through it in the last 5 years. That's all they're trying to do.
Honestly,
in a clunky way.
I don't like it because it really kind of minimizes the absolute randomness of what this guy did last night. Because by all accounts, it doesn't seem like he went there for any purpose other than that there were people there.
Not that we know of yet, right?
Yeah. Well, regardless of what Shawn thinks, New York Times, you're our Geek of the Week.
Don't say R.
It's the royal R.
He was referring to him, me and him.
Yeah, okay, well.
And you can dance together all night if you've got the time.
So it is Black History Month, and we want to highlight some bands, new wave bands, that have either been led by or include some prominent members who frankly don't look like most of the people in new wave music, and not just because a lot of people in new wave music wear pancake makeup like Robert Smith and are even whiter than white.
What about
almost
the Fine Young
translucent.
Cannibals?
We did do the
Where
Fine
were you
Young
last
Cannibals
week?
Oh, we did.
last week. In fact, you know,
There's the Shawn I know and love.
this is a
I know we did.
this is a true Shawn moment too, because he sends me a text about a month ago. It says, "You know, this is a great song, but why don't we do this song by the Fine Young Cannibals?" I said, "It's such a great idea. We did it about a year ago." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I remember." So we started this month with the Fine Young Cannibals, but now we move to General Public.
To Lenny Kravitz?
No, General Public, who's led by Ranking Roger, an outstanding, also prominent member of the English Beat. But this is a little more low-key song. General Public doing General Public.
Come and join our federation. We could have communication. You can have your application inside the battle station. Could this be a fascination? Look out for hallucinations. Stick right to the regulations. Must get down the population. That trains into that so badly. People never notice sadly. All the goings on behind the backs of men left well deserted. Seek out individuality. Make sure you show hospitality. Face it now 'cause it's
So I picked General Public this morning by General Public because it is a little more low key. It's a little more soothing, but the lyrics, I think, sort of speak to the moment. Seek out individuality. Make sure you show hospitality. Face it now because it's reality. Watch the change in personality. What's to change? Humanity. And I think the answer is we are. We should do it. Humans should make the change. But
I really don't like songs that have the same name as the band.
Yeah, and it's from the album General Public. No, I don't know.
Like
if it is
Talk with Talk. And
you don't like Talk by Talk
no,
and the album Talk
I immediately discard a song if it's named the same thing as the band.
Why can't it
like
be
Bad
Talk
Religion
to the
and Bad
Sixth?
Religion?
What about Bad Company by Bad Company?
I don't like. I won't even listen to it.
It's Bad Company. I'm Bad Company.
Who did? What's the song? It's My Life. Who did?
It's My
That's
Life.
Talk.
Bon Jovi.
That's Talk. Okay, yeah.
Well, that's also
That's a great song. How come we don't play that song?
we have played that song.
We don't.
No, we
play that
haven't.
song.
No, we played something else by them.
Yeah, of course. We played
Because the whole purpose of this segment is not to play the one song everybody knows by the band that everybody knows.
It's to play the B-sides.
Well, it's been
which
how
they
many
had to
years?
do because there was space there on the vinyl.
He's never gonna get it.
No, yeah, let's play the sides that the record companies had to do because otherwise it would just been smooth, no grooves on the other side.
Look, we've talked about this for a long time.
But that is the song the record company wanted. That's what the A&R man said. Let's play It's My Life. That is the hit. That is the A-side.
March is going to be Sean Windsor New Wave month. Will you pick all the songs for March?
I'll pick one.
No, what?
I want to hear Milky Way.
But that's the A-side too. That's the hit.
I know, of course, right, Mark?
Well, people love the hits. I'll tell you that much.
But we're here to bring some. To
I get the
expose
idea.
people with something. Anyway, General.
Look of Love. You do that, and I'm good.
Also the A-side.
That would have been good for Valentine's Day.
Which one do you like better, Look of Love or Poison Arrow?
Wow, that's you toss a coin and its heads on both sides. You can't lose.
Oh, they're both incredible
fantastic.
songs.
And
Incredible
ABC was at the Magic Bag last summer, which I totally missed, and I'm hoping they come back because I would love to try and get them on the show.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, the Magic Bag. Willie Wilson is one of the bookers at the Magic Bag. You may
Great
have
man.
heard him on WDET. Great guy, knows
dude,
everybody,
love him.
and we may try and get him to hook us up with.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah, no, very cool. So some of the things I really like about this particular tune is the tempo changes. You know, it kind of picks up a little bit, then it gets back into a groove, and then there's that false ending.
Yeah,
And
which
then,
scared me.
Then, of course, it's got some great bass lines and very fantastic percussion. But Ranking Roger, terrific leader in the new wave movement in England, bringing a little sort of ska flavor to new wave. He was one of the leaders in General Public, along with Dave Wakeling, and then also went on to be a key member in English Beat. I may have the chronology wrong. He may have been English Beat first with I think with Pato. There's a song, Pato and Roger Take a Walk. If you know what I'm talking about, you know exactly. It sounded like that. But Ranking Roger, terrific artist, and I think he just passed a year or two ago.
He did, yeah.
So
more than that, but yeah, not that
just
long.
seems like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And if they didn't bury him, then he really is ranking. But I think he was probably laid to rest properly. So we would love to get your suggestions. A-sides, B-sides. We're not going to get too picky here at room 7609. Send us your suggestion at mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com. We got some great shoegazing suggestions, which we will get back to once we get through Black History Month, because we do want to bring some acclaim to some artists that maybe you missed. And we have so many good suggestions. We may extend this a little bit. Somebody suggested Bad Brains. Do you know Bad Brains?
I do know Bad Brains. By the way, how do you
kind of more of a punk band?
How
don't
do
you think?
Yeah, they are.
Oh, yeah.
How do you, they're from New Orleans, right? How do you? Or maybe they're not. How do you gaze at your shoes if you can't see them?
Oh, because you're fat like me.
Yeah, like I can't see my shoes.
Okay.
I could maybe navel gaze if I used a mirror, a handheld mirror.
Sam,
onto the Shawn
Sam, are
portion.
you still there? This is why Sam wanted to get out of here. He's like, I know the old man's about to go off the rails, so let me
No, I'm just trying to
have a nosh.
I'm just trying to do a real mic in a little
God
bit
bless you.
with some absurdity.
God bless you.
Yes, we love to hear from you, and I should give you a fair warning too before we get to another segment of the show. I have asked our musical director, Max Prokop, to try and put together a couple of new grooves for our 200th episode, which is coming up later on this month. So before we get to feedback, I want to thank the people who also make this show possible, our very generous donors. And, we started the year real slow without any donations, or not too many. And big rally, Dennis Stanford sends us a very generous donation. He says, I haven't donated in a while, but after the February 7th show, I felt it was necessary. Please use this donation to buy Lila treats and pea pads. Her barking contributed way more than Shawn. Working in Ann Arbor for the better part of 30 years, I must say Shawn is a true Ann Arborite. Instead of using a shovel to throw some dirt, sand, mulch on ice for traction, he almost gives himself a stroke, pushes and pulls his car free. 3 smiley face emojis. Love the show, from ML's long-winded responses to simple questions to Marc stroking the flames between ML's ego and Shawn's lack of emotion. It's good listening. Shawn, start pulling your weight, not your car.
That's great. Thank you.
Yes, Matt Jennings should make a return. He can be your boner line, just like the D&M
Not a bad idea.
podcast. So thank you very much, Dennis. Nancy also said...
Wait, Dennis wants me to show emotion?
Oh, my God.
He also wants you to call a tow truck. He doesn't want anything to happen to you.
Yeah, we're worried about you. Okay. Have you recovered?
No, I don't know. Who knows? I'm here.
He said, like a true Ann Arborite, he put tabbouleh under his tires for traction.
Really? You think that would help?
That quinoa is it's got some friction to it.
Yeah.
So... Nancy says, love the show. If I had a t-shirt or something with the logo on it, I'd be happy to advertise for you. Well, Nancy, I'm going to send you an email. You let us know what size you wear, and we will be happy to make you an influencer for the good old soul of Detroit. And we also have another donation, if I don't screw it up. Oh, this just came in the other day. It is from Rosemary, who has not donated before, so she is showing you how easy it is. She says, quite simply, love you guys. So, Rosemary.
Aww. Rosemary or Rosemary?
Back. Oh, it's a good question.
Is it Rosemary? Like Rosemary Clooney?
Either one's fine.
Okay.
I
thought Mike was going to have something quick.
He was looking for the answer.
No, I just think sometimes it's the mystery that keeps us coming back.
Yeah,
so if you would like to
it
join...
when you cock your head but like that, by the way, at me. It's fetching.
Yeah, it's what animals do when they're confused.
I thought it was what they did when they were in heat. But,
what?
It is Valentine's Day. But if you would like to donate, as Rosemary did, or Rosemary, and find out how easy it is, Marc, try and unravel this mystery. Try and expose this fundamental truth.
ML, soulofdetroit.com. Donate button takes you to your PayPal, where you can unload it there.
Damn, that really...
Very simple.
Really is easy. So we have a little feedback to share this week, and we love hearing from you. Again, you can reach us at mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com. We have a regular correspondent who once again raises the question of the Hudson skyscraper. She says the core has not grown in months because it's only going to be barely taller than the 15th floor Hudson's block and one campus Martius next to it. Less than 20 floors, no residents for sale because those upper floors won't exist. Well, I don't know if that's true, but we will keep checking on that, Alexis. If you've been following my man R.C. Reindells, or J.C. Reindells, yeah, that's my man. I'm right up there. If you follow J.C. Reindell, all these guys with initials are so pretentious, but
they're suspicious. They're suspicious.
You just never know what they're hiding. But if you follow J.C.'s work in the Free Press, he's doing a great job writing about the latest $1.5 billion tax, let's just say, situation.
Ponzi scheme? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
No, I mean, JC was on the show a couple episodes ago. Catch up on that. Now, I've been going to some of these hearings, too, and one of the really interesting things, and I still don't know where I stand on this.
Yes, please tell us.
But one of the really interesting things about the $616 million tax break that the developers want, it was just approved, and so now it goes to City Council. It was approved by a Brownfield tax credit board, blah, blah, blah. Now it goes to City Council. Here's what's interesting about that. This is not a reduction in their property taxes. It's taxes that will be generated by the project. They want to get a piece of that. Mm-hmm. So in other words, they will not be lowering anybody's tax share. They will just be seeking to reap a portion of the rewards for their labors, which is a somewhat novel concept. I don't quite know how I feel about it, but I think there's a sense of, this is going to be taking money away from the schools. And this is only going, they're only going to get this money if they generate this business, which is kind of interesting.
I have a question for you,
So
Mike.
we'll keep an eye on that.
So with $619 million, how many Rivieras could you buy? Or old,
really the question you have.
Oldsmobile cutlasses, if you prefer.
The cutlass. I paid $1,500 for that cutlass.
So a lot.
But
you could add to your collection.
That was back in 1987.
You could add to your collection that had plenty of money left over to keep them running.
Sadly, we lost 2 cars this week. Our Ford C-Max died on us, and we're not sure if it will be revived. And then later on that week, one of my daughters got into a fender bender and got the front end of the car, the Jeep, crinkled up. This is our new car, the one with 95,000 miles that we bought from the young woman whose daughter was at Oxford and then in East Lansing. And then at the end of the week, it got rear-ended. So it's probably looking a little bit like an accordion. So we could use some more cars, believe it or not. But thank you, Shawn. And with your donations, someday we'll get those cars. One more message here from Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Daniel says, I subscribed to the Freep last month, and now I donated over $100 to Clark Park. Listening to your podcast is getting pricey. But Daniel, I hope you'll agree.
Worth
every penny. And you can subscribe 3 months to the Free Press for 99 cents.
Isn't that a deal?
I'd buy that for $1.
Absolutely.
And get change.
I'd buy that for $1. Where did we? What movie?
Running Man.
That's the Richard Dawson. Yeah.
Yeah. What, does steroids affect your hearing? Remember when he's yelling at his bodyguard when it's pretty clear that...
who was the gal in that? Conchita? No.
Maria Conchita Alonso.
Yeah, nice 80s.
Have they remade that movie to ruin it yet?
Action star.
Like they remade all those other movies?
That's probably one that would get better if they remade it.
Think so?
Maybe.
I
Could
can
be
think
in the
of-
right hands.
I can think of a lot of guys replacing Arnold, like maybe John Cena or Dave Bautista. Those guys are really
so good. both
really
those guys.
funny.
Total Recall was remade.
It was awful.
Yeah, but how
It
do
was
you
much darker, but I like the
how do you
cast.
replace Richard Dawson, man?
Blade Runner was remade, and it was awful.
No, for sure. But Blade Runner was actually a good movie. You know, Total
you like
Recall.
it with or
Total Recall was
The
just
original?
80s camp.
Blade Runner with or without the voiceovers?
No, both the originals were very good movies.
Yeah, I don't
Blade
know that
Runner
I saw
and Total
both of them.
Recall.
Total Recall was just sort of fun 80s camp,
Yeah.
but Blade Runner was like a serious movie.
Like most of Arnold's movies.
Yeah, right. It was fun. Like what was the movie where the bad guy steps and they go between the screen?
That's Total Recall.
No. They go between reality. He plays a cop in L.A. and he's
The Last Action Hero.
That's
or
it.
something?
Yeah, and he's in a movie, and then
Did
it
not
turns
see
out.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for that input.
Yeah. Cliffhanger was my favorite Schwarzenegger movie.
Cliffhanger.
Oh, you know
That's
what?
Stallone, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, okay.
They were saying.
What? You're all over the place today.
Now I wonder why he doesn't think the New York Times non sequitur is so weird. He's redefining the form right before our very eyes.
but they were the same in a lot of ways.
So there's a guest that I've been talking about having on this show forever.
Mark?
And Ed Murphy is getting tired of me not making it happen. But the guy, he's a Detroit guy.
Mm-hmm.
He played the guy in the Warriors who shoots Cyrus. And he plays Sully in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he's holding him by the wrist and he says, "Remember, Sully, when I said I'd kill you last?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, that's right, you did." He goes, "I lied." He is willing to be a guest on the show. I've got to make that happen because
let's make that happen.
he's a terrific
That'd be
actor.
great.
Terrific actor.
Sully! Bro, no way! No way, Sully, babe. I gotta say what up to Sullivan.
Okay.
Sweet. Sullivan, you chode! I owe you a shot.
He also killed Mike Ehrmantraut in 48 Hours.
Oh.
Jonathan Banks, remember?
Yeah,
I haven't seen that in a long time.
Kills him. So he is a serious... Oh, no, maybe that was James Reimer who did it. Ah,
Well,
damn.
we're half right on a lot of things right now.
We're going to try
I
and
love it how the end of the show always devolves into 80s movies.
We're always going to try and... We're
Why
going
don't we
to
do that at the beginning of the show?
Sully on here.
Oh, because then it would be interesting.
Where is Cyrus when we need him?
Yeah, by the
Where
way,
is Cyrus?
please,
Yes, Cyrus, please.
after we made our appeal
for my bladder. Thank you, Cyrus.
After we made our appeal for donations, please don't in any way be influenced by Shawn's complete hatred of the show. His incredible, it's terrible. It's
I
awful.
love I love the show.
Heaping derision on us.
I love the show.
As we just made an impassioned plea for your dollars.
Actually, I love you guys. Yeah.
But I hate the show.
Oh, I'm kidding. I love the show.
I know.
The show's funny. The show's fun to do. That's why I drive here every week through potholes.
Well, and thank you for getting Sam and Patrick on today. That was pretty intense. They did a great job too.
Yeah, the circumstances obviously suck, but it was interesting to watch him come in here, and he's grown up. I mean, y'all don't have any perspective for that, but yeah.
No, I remember when he was a little guy.
That's true. You do.
In fact, I remember he had some.
He went camping with you. That's right. Yeah,
that's right. When I think Jim Schaefer's kid hit me in the head with a shovel or something because.
They came home talking about you and your pepperoni fart jokes.
No, there were no pepperoni. They had never heard of Giuseppe Brown Eye before. He was a very famous character in Italian.
They did. They were camping with us, and I had to go do something for work or whatever. And my boys stayed an extra night with Jim Schaefer, and Mike came, and they came home from that trip. They just thought Mike was the funniest guy ever.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you allow kids to start fires. They really love that shit. We are, by the way, banned from that campground.
But that's true. You have seen Sam since he was fairly young.
Yeah, both the boys.
Yeah, and of course, and Jake. But.
They helped try and bring about positive change.
And then Sam came and did some volunteer work for you on your campaign with his girlfriend Gina.
He never looked so good as when he was wearing that T-shirt.
Yeah, he enjoyed himself.
Because it had your name on it.
Well, it's blue with lovely green on it. What more could you want? That's perfect color scheme from a kid who grew up in Ann Arbor and became a man in East Lansing.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Well, we appreciate you staying with us on a somewhat somber occasion, but we hope we shed some light on this, and we hope that wherever you or your children are, your loved ones are, that they'll be safe, and we hope that those who are still waiting to find out how their kids are doing will get good news. And for those who have lost loved ones, we can't say enough how much we hope that you can have peace and strength in this very challenging time. So please make sure that the people who you love know that you love them, short of getting a text from you in a hostage situation. You can't tell people enough how much you care about them. Mark, you're a great man. Shawn, sorry, my mic went out for a minute there, but Shawn, it's great to be here with you as well.
Are you sure?
Technical
Are you sure?
difficulties. I think Joe hit the cough button there, but and of course the invisible man, the man behind the curtain, Joe Zuver, who handles all of our fantastic online stuff. Please watch his great work on YouTube. You can subscribe to Soul of Detroit there. It really helps the show if you subscribe. If you hit the bell to get alerts, you'll always know when we go live. And please rate us. We got a rating recently, which is great. We're closing in on, I think, 500 to 600 ratings. So we love to know what you think. We love your feedback, and we love you. Right, Shawn?
We do, and I love both of you.
Okay. Mark, we're fond of
love you
people
too.
in the
Cyrus.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. And Cyrus, of course, everybody's favorite guy is Cyrus because he's the one who takes us out.
Can you dig that?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?